Yes, everyone, welcome back. Right now, the fan base is in disarray. We don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. The frustrations around the ownership, our direction, or the lack of direction we're seeing right now, it's the center of conversation. So naturally, I had to bring on one of the best content creators at the moment right now, doing big things. I think we all saw his vlog to Kazakhstan. That's a little bit of a classic for the year already. I have to say, like, he's smiling, he can't hide it anymore. Of course, you guys, I got to bring on Mr. Matisse. Matisse, what are you saying, man?
Pleasure, brother. Dark times indeed, like you said. So I'm looking forward to dissecting this. Yeah. I always try to have a bit of try and shine a bit of light, but even I'm struggling.
You're the light and I'm the darkness right now, clearly. So yes, crazy times, my guy. But of course, I think just to waste no time, I mean, we all know what's going on in this process. 25th, 6 p.m. Let us know right now, chat, comment section. Are you attending or not? Let us know. Don't give your excuses why you can't come. Are you coming or not? But Ma, what has been your initial reaction and impression on this upcoming process? Is this the right way to vent our voices, or are you seeing some negatives behind this?
Well, I think last week, I kind of sensed that there was a lot of talk about it. So I was expecting some sort of organized protest to happen at some point, because I don't believe in talking about it unless you're going to do it. Like when we did the Ricketts one, we obviously had a very limited time span to act, because obviously the process was still taking place for ownership change. And for me, it's empty words if you're not going to act on it. Now, what I hope for it that it is organized. It does have, points of purpose, and it's clear what the agenda is, or the narrative that they want to create is, because obviously you don't want it to be lost in translation, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute. But there's more than just that needs to take place. I think when we talk about billionaires, who potentially will...
they're not my favorite people. Right now, yeah.
We're talking about billionaires removing themselves from an institution that they've invested in, or they will go on to invest more in. We're talking about merchandise. We're talking about, are you willing to sacrifice, go into the games, potentially further down the line, more protests? So there's a lot more that has to happen than just obviously this singular one. This seems to be just the beginning. But my reaction is I'm glad to see that people are making their voice heard. I just hope that there is a clear message that they're trying to send that will make sense to the wider, because obviously we're in danger of coming across like we're just spoiled. And I don't want us to come across like that, because there are genuine issues at the club that need to be addressed. And I think there is people that need to be held accountable and do need to be moving on in the summer, which we'll get into. So I want that to be translated properly. I don't want people to just come away from this thinking.
Let's get into that right now. Who do you want to... I think we have to just be concrete with what we're discussing. Like, who do you want to see out in the summer to give
direct directors? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, when Stanley and Lawrence Stewart, I wanted them gone after last summer with Pochettino being removed. I thought they should have went with him. Now I'm even more sure that they should be gone. I just think when you look at the billion plus, assets and money spent, we haven't got enough for what we've paid for. And I know they've gone down a very extremist route of stockpiling young players in goalkeeper and striker positions. But I just look at it from an overall sporting perspective. You're running a football club, and I don't think you're running it very well. From a business, you're not maximizing. You're not maximizing on talents for profit in terms of development plans for players like Washington, Insamino, etc. in the under-21s. I don't see strategy and good planning there. I see, an over-excessive amount of buying and not enough planning and development routes. I look at the sponsorship situation. I think it's embarrassing as well, considering that we're not guaranteed, or we're not expected, we're ahead of schedule to make Champions League the following season after this. Then why haven't you got a sponsorship right now? You're literally losing money every single game that we go out and play football. And then obviously I look at the squad building and the distinct, clear profiles that we lack in this team to allow us to be balanced and allow us to challenge on multiple fronts properly. And the fact that 6 months later, signings that were made in the summer are redundant. As much as I think the structure that the ownership have put out there, which is, maybe restrictive, or there are certain, limitations that they've put in place with the wage structure, with the average age or the age limit. I don't think these directors have even maximized within that structure. I think they've made far too many mistakes. Yeah. I think they've made error after error. And I think at some point accountability needs to fall with them, especially when they have hired the manager that a lot of people are now questioning as well.
I think that's very fair points. I mean, my perspective has always been, man, the issue came right from the start of this ownership. They took on more than they could actually chew. That's the issue. Like, you need to have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 plan, but did every single phase all at once. And I believe this is why we're paying the consequences. This is why we can't necessarily focus on being able to now push towards better things right now, because you're constantly having to, save situations that for messes you created in the past. And I think this is what's reflected really in the wage bill structure. I mean, let's look at the summer. We spent the entire window going for Osimhen. Whatever people's opinions are, if we wanted them or not, that's not the point. The point is, outside of all our thoughts, the club, irrespective of our decision making, they were pursuing him the longest. They took it right to the end in hopes desperately that he'd be able to agree to reducing his wages to sign for us. And in the end, it backfired. And for me, not only was that a bit of an L, but it was also like a very illuminating reflection of, do we even have the funds? Like, when we signed Felix, he took a massive pay cut to sign for us because, he had to, for the sake, 100K. This guy, when we first signed him on loan, was it like not more than double the amount? We paid 18 million, right from the start. Like, we were quite reckless with that type of spending. Yeah, they tried to safeguard with little loopholes, PSR stuff, obviously amortization. We all know that type of stuff. But I just think right now, for me, my main fear is that there's a lack of real football that's prioritized. That's my fear. My fear is that they could happily continue down this route because by the books on paper, if the money's still all right and you're still making investments and flips here and there, by the time the 10-year period ends, when you can start extracting profits and dividends from the club, hey, on paper, you're doing what you had to do, right? You're good. But on the other hand, I think as a fan base, you're not here to be waiting for the potential chance of securing CL. Like I've been saying, when we all believe in the process, we didn't think that would come at the expense of guaranteed CL every year. We thought that was the minimum, right?
Yeah.
That was the minimum we expected before we start seeing progression for the real big trophies, the title, which we are still a long way away from. Probably like another 2 years away minimum. This was not promised. This was not what was told to us at the start. And for me, man, I want to see the protest call for transparency right now. We want the accountability. This is how we get the accountability. This is where we direct our voices. Personally, I think it's a bit of a mistake if you're calling for Blueco out, because why the hell are you calling for Blueco out? They're the parent company. That means nothing. If you want to call for these owners out, you call for Clear Lake out. The fact guys aren't understanding the difference between what they're calling out for, it worries me a little bit, because then I think to myself, if there's 10 men, what are these guys thinking they're protesting against when there's no uniformed type of structure behind, where the angst is coming from, where the frustration is coming from, what they're expecting, what they want out from the football club, what they're demanding. And I think it's very fair to have expectations and for the fan base to demand, because, bro, the reality is not pretty. The reality is costs are going to go up for everything we're doing. Yeah. I know certain man have this dream that when we get the stadium at some point, if that ever comes off.
The stadium won't be here until the mid-30s.
I mean, for a long time, mid-30s. Don't even start thinking about that right now. And don't even tell yourself that prices will come down where you have like an extra 10K, 15K capacity, like it happened at Spurs, like it happened at West Ham, like it happened at Arsenal. Like, this is the fan stuff that needs to just kind of be like understood so we can stop bringing this to the conversation, because it dilutes it. That's what I see. Diluting the conversation when you're not able to actually process where your frustration is coming from, what you want to see. And the reality is, you want to see success. We don't want to wait another 5 years to try and get CL football. Yeah, we want to start prioritizing winning now. And I think all of us, we want to start seeing us minimize this youth first structure and prioritizing the funds of players that can help us get there now. Because bro, for me, it's simple. All them funds that you could have used for Osimhen, you said no, so you could dilute them and buy 6 other young players that you haven't even built the environment for to even take advantage of.
And they've done it backwards. I think they've vastly, when this is the problem when it does lead from the top, is when you see the briefings and you see the manipulation. So I don't even know if I even want transparency from them, because they'll probably put out something that's pretty manipulative and pretty, you know, it's targeted in a way to try and rope you back
Yeah.
into believing into the long term once again. It's clear with the mixed messaging. First, they say we want to bring Champions League on a regular basis back to Stamford Bridge. Now we have the manager saying that Champions League was not prioritized for him this season. He wants, he's expected to get it next season. Even though when they sacked Poch, the clear remit and the clear, talk out of the club was that Champions League is expected next season, along with challenging for trophies.
Or
So they keep moving the
expected
goalposts.
every single year. The
Yeah.
report confirm it.
The goalposts keep moving constantly, and we saw it with Trevor Chalobah. When one minute he's part of the project, next minute he's back in. I just think when it comes to this ownership, they had to spend that billion because it was part of the deal to acquire the club. Roman wanted $1 billion spent in 10 years. They decided to spend it extra quick instead of maybe taking some time saying, right, we're going to do things gradually. We're going to understand the game that we're coming into, understand the sport that we're getting ourselves into. Yes, you can. Those Brighton, Bournemouth to Chelsea comparisons are so dangerous because we don't have the same fan bases, we don't have the same history, we don't have the same expectations, we don't have the same pressure. So you can't model developing talent at those clubs and say that it can happen here the same way. Especially when you don't.
That's your point too, bro. The fact is that did they not sign your James Milners? Did they not sign your Welbecks? And all these other experienced guys.
Yeah, there's experienced players there. Welbeck,
so, we're not even doing it properly at the moment, bro.
No, I mean, there's so many things we're missing here. When you're developing young players, you need contrast, you need leadership, you need players around that they can look up to, that they can learn from. Giroud to Tammy Abraham, Aspilicueta to Reece James.
1920 season. The experience was there. Thiago Silva with what we had, bro. You know what I mean? It's been there since day one. And listen, this is where I can be honest. I'm not here to act like everything I say is infallible. I've been right about everything. Listen, I think many of us, I can't speak for anyone. I'm speaking for myself. I happily drank that Kool-Aid, man. When I was seeing things I've never seen before, like breaking the transfer window twice in a row, signing Enzo's, Caicedo's, going on these like ridiculous spending sprees, signing all these borders where your imagination's just running like wild. You think to yourself, these guys are moving with so much like assertiveness and confidence that it just made me naturally feel like, all right, is something happening here? Because they're not wasting no time. It got a little bit crazy as I was clocking at the end of that 22-23 season. Squad's a bit blowing. Like just understanding how daily runnings behind the scenes are going to work. How is it going to work when you've got 34 internationals behind the scenes? And what tactic are you going to build from that? What are you going to, it's just not making too much sense. But listen, I'm not going to act like I didn't have that type of belief in terms of what could have happened. But personally, I just think, as we're really just alluding to, it's just that lack of, football that's being prioritized, not having the key decision makers that know, because it's all about managing the risk. You have to know when to take a risk and when not to. And I've been saying this example all the time. And you had guys like Osimhen and Odyssey in the palm of your hands, and you're not securing that. Bro, they end up being the difference between getting CL and still trying to fight for it. That's the reality, man.
They're clearly influenced by not only PSR got in their way last summer, they got themselves into a mess. Agents, George Mendes versus Felix or Neto, they sometimes find the right players, but they don't close the deals. And for me, you can't get credit for finding but not securing, because lots of people can find, but you still have to secure. So there's so much that goes into the start to finish of the deal that they're getting wrong. And how many times have we seen like Barley or someone else step in and close a deal because there's been back and forths in Caicedo, sagas, or Enzo Fernandez sagas. So it's a difficult.
I do think like if you got to break the record transfer, I think you have to ask permission from the boss to do that.
Of course, I think the ownership have to sign off on everything, and that's why they're not blameless, because at the end of the day, they set the precedents, they set the expectations, they set the standards. If the demands from the owners were Chelsea need to win a Premier League in the next 2 years, and you need to sign players that will impact that first 11, then I don't think the directors would be signing, Matisse from Saint Etienne in January, when we clearly need to sign someone that will actually impact the team. We need a striker. So But at the same time, when you are signing your Disassis or your Dewsbury Halls or your Badia Shields, etc., could you do better? You know, you could. So everybody's involved, everybody's culpable at the end of the day. But for me, it is easier to get the directors gone in the short term than it is obviously the owners. That goes without
Yeah.
saying. My only issue is now, where's the money going to come from? Because we've already spent the billion that they were mandatory obligated to have to spend in record time. Who says they're going to now really put their hand into their pocket for the next few windows? We've seen the last couple of windows have just been swaps, opportunities, and yeah.
And getting turned down for moves. We can't forget Gully efforts fell through. Murillo, that was like the surprise one. Reports was actually coming out when the window ended of like more inquiries. Like the guy Castador from the DM Barcelona. Like this is, for me, this is where I see like a criminal lack of quality in the directors, because again, it's all opportunities. It's not focus. It's not, you know what? We need to make sure we secure CL football. Maybe this is above our means right now to prioritize January window, signing summer targets. Unless we've actually got the okay before the window even flipping opened up, and unless we've told ourselves we are ready to overpay to bring in one of these men, you're wasting your time. And for me, I think the perfect examples that really sum up the failure in the window was the efforts from Matisse Tel to be like the star main priority, to the point where when Garnacho had accepted a move to us, we saw that because we were still keeping our eyes out on Tel. The fact he's gone to Spurs, and the biggest kicker was, again, after being turned down 2 times, got turned down the 3rd time on the 11th hour when he got off the plane in London. Like, this is not a director that knows how to operate at a big club. This is not how you do things. There's a focus and strategy. I've always used Real Madrid because, again, like when I make my examples, I have to look at the clubs who are better than us, what they're doing that makes them better, and what we're lacking that they're doing. And Madrid, do they turn down signing Hostelus and players like that when they have to turn towards that experience? Absolutely not. And look at the quality that you get from these types of guys. You know, this never-ending, you know, like this rigid type of just insane pursuit of just youth, you know, to the detriment of what you're seeing right now. I mean, I know for a certain Maresca's not as happy behind the scenes. From what I've heard, I know for a certain, I mean, we all know. He asked for a striker midfielder before the window even opened up. Yeah, you've undermined the manager. The squad's thinner now because Madueke and Jackson and you are out. Where's the foresight to plan for these things? That's what you do. Yeah. The fact that there was a window, I was saying, if we want to secure CL, January's going to be big, not so we can spend 100 million again on players, but because we have to strengthen areas like in the fields that anything happens, boom, out. And a striker, because Nico can't be playing week in, week out.
We needed a striker from last summer. They knew this. They were going for strikers, and then they decided not to go for one again.
After strike. And I'm sorry, I can't act like there wasn't short-term options. I say Colin Mwani. I said Mateta was my probably.
Yeah, that was
a move for. I've been saying for time. Bring this brother to the football club. 1 year left. Yeah, I'm sure Palace is going to be harder for them to turn down 30 mil, 35 from Mateta compared to Mark Gurley, especially Mateta coming. You know what I mean? That's what you want to see from directors in control of our football club who actually get it. And I feel like these guys don't. And this is where the lack of confidence is coming from. But bro, I have to ask you this right now just to keep this conversation up. If Winston Lee and Stuart go, who is the director or option, if you've even thought that far ahead, that you would turn to? Because this is why I lose a bit of hope now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, we were all talking about Edwards before, but I think he rejected us anyway because he
rejected us. He rejected us for time.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Luis Campos. Luis Campos is who I wanted before. He's a big guy. Yeah. Before these guys came in.
Yeah.
When they first took over the club and Tuchel was obviously at the helm, I was like, oh, if you ask me who my favorite director is, or one of my favorite ones, Luis Campos comes up. You look at his Monaco team, his Lille team, what he's doing at PSG. I wouldn't actually. It's funny. I actually think we would have been in better hands maybe with Christopher Velt. I don't know. I just feel like having 2 sporting directors, like 2
different voices, like
different. It feels like they they get a little bit of what they want, but then it's not matching up. Like, oh, I'll get Disassi and Badiashile, and then you can get Cucurella, Caicedo, and Sanchez, and they just happen to what a coincidence they come from your former clubs. And then Joe Shields, you get a couple of your picks as well. You get Lavia, Sancho, and
I mean,
whoever else.
the
It,
strangers don't control the club right now. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's very odd behavior the way that we're being run. But yeah,
I mean,
Luis Campos would have been great.
I mean, yeah, for me, this is what I'm going on. And this is the issue, because it's like when we want to see these guys out, unless you can be like, Campos, here's 10 times the money you're earning at PSG right now. This is your baby. It's coming to life. Can we afford to entice you out from this project you're building right now? This is where it gets difficult, man. This is where it's like, where are these top quality options that are about? And I think to myself, are we maybe being a bit too unrealistic at times, hoping that these owners who specifically hire these men for a reason to create the vision they plan for themselves are going to be willing to just say Winstonley, Stewart out the door? Because then what really gives us the confidence that they're going to be able to secure the top guys they want when they haven't been able to?
This is why people are going for the very top, because they don't believe that they are ambitious enough to go for the best in the market.
Yeah, I mean,
and really, Chelsea should be going for the best. There is no reason to be going for second rate, third rate. You should be going for the best in class in all departments of the club.
Yeah, facts, bro. Even like Christopher Frame, when he was close to like taking the job, obviously he's at Bayern Munich now, doing big things. He's got all the guys at Bayern been waiting to get tied down to long-term contracts for time. Bro, Davis, Musiala, securing Odyssey, securing this move, securing that move. Like, we try to get some of these guys to come through. But personally, this is why I also blame the ownership, because I think, and it goes back to the point I'm making, because we just force too much like change and restructure all at once. I feel like this is why we even had to hire so many guys more than we needed to, because it's just impossible for one man to sell 30 players, look at like 50 scout reports, sign like another 20 guys, knowing that you got to negotiate with 10 other clubs for the same player. It's just like, I'm not here to say, be soft on them. I hope you guys aren't listening to this, taking it that way. But it's more about how everyone creates a collective failure.
Yeah, of course. You can scale it all back to day one when Todd Bowley was the sporting director, and he would have, contributed to some of the money spent because he was in a position that he was never qualified to be in, when really you should have hired a sporting director from day one. But obviously they didn't do that. But the thing is that even though what we're talking about is unrealistic, this is why I'm still very much in favor of a protest from the people that are organizing it, because even though, like you said, how do we even go about dismantling this institution that is failing? It needs to be dismantled. Like, something needs to happen. Something has to change. It cannot go on like this, because the status of Chelsea is going to plummet. We're getting rejected by a lower caliber of player every single window we go into, and word gets around. People are starting to see that we're not stable. We don't really care about the individuals' careers that we're bringing in a lot of the time. We are very, we're almost numb to the amount of players we're bringing in. We bring in Washington. He's talked about as being a big part of the project. That's the brief that will go out there and go out into the reports and through the journalists. And we don't give him any sort of development plan. There's no loan. I have no idea how good this talent is. And next thing you know, he's back at Santos 18 months later playing with Neymar. That negligence can't carry on. So there has to be consequences. Now, I don't believe in the directors to hire a replacement for Maresca for the people that are saying just sack Maresca. I don't believe in them to spend the money correctly in the summer if we were to make or not make Champions League. And I also, like you just said, I don't believe in the ownership to hire the right replacements for the directors, because everything they've done is by design and on purpose. They have mentioned Brighton. They have mentioned RB Leipzig. They have mentioned these clubs as their inspiration, as their influence. So they are doing exactly what they feel those clubs do. But they're still doing it poorly in comparison to those clubs, because if you look at those clubs, not only are we not a comparison to them, but they don't spend the level of money that we've spent, and they don't have the financial repercussions and issues that we're going to have. So it's not.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I think, listen, the model of Brian's and Co's, that it's not bad, but I think we all had the belief that we'd be elevating that type of model based on the advantages we have, the club of our size, our recent history, the level of investment that's being pumped into us, the access to player quality that we can tap into compared to clubs of that stature. That's been the disappointing thing. But for myself, I feel like I'm looking at the reality of the situation. I'm not feeling optimistic that there'll be heads that get dropped. Could maybe, I don't know, now that the squad's slowly getting thinner every season to the point, like, this is probably the thinnest squad we have right now, considering all these flipping injuries we got.
Yeah.
Could that be a reason now to maybe say, you know what, one of you directors, we don't actually need two now. We're going to focus on one. But then who the hell are you keeping realistically?
I would get rid of both and get a new one.
Exactly. Are you going to give a new position to Joe Shields to be like, listen, you've been behind the scenes, just getting this player and that player regardless. Are you ready to boss up now and run things completely? Is that an option that you're signing to realistically?
I would love to have. I don't know if Michael Ballack was in and amongst this type of position, and look at Petr Cech as well.
I think
people spoke about Frank Lampard in terms of his recruitment and his ideas. I wouldn't necessarily make a former player or someone like that in charge of the entire sporting running of the club. But if you're going to have two people,
okay, let me ask you though.
Maybe you do have someone like that alongside an expert.
How come you wouldn't? Because the other clubs like Milan and Juventus and, you know, even Deco, former player at Barca running things, it's not like, you know,
it's not unheard of. Yeah,
it's quite common that a lot of older pros take up these positions, right, in the future. So, you know,
the only reason why I say it is just purely because are the ownership going to give that person the power to actually then do what they need to do to excel in the role, or are they going to handcuff them and say, you have to fit into my vision and collaborate?
This is the real issue, right? Because we think like this.
Then otherwise, the former player gets scapegoated, isn't it?
Exactly. And also the unknown of like, how much is it fully that is the directors placing restrictions and rules, and how much is it like the critical failures of the sporting directors who aren't maybe implementing the vision? Because I think to myself, is a Bowley or Barley or whoever, are they going to be mad if one of these directors bought a 32-year-old in a 2-year deal because they thought that he had to help the team right now?
Are they allowed? Are they not? Yeah.
This is the thing. This is the thing. This is where it gets like a bit like we don't know. And this is why I think for me, the process should focus on the transparency. I feel like if you're someone that just wants to see Clear Lake out, Blue go out, I gotta keep it brutally real, man. I think you're wasting all of our time. I think you keep that shit on Twitter. I think you keep that shit on socials and your group chats. Please don't be wasting your time saying it publicly, because this is not a reality that will ever come to fruition. They can't sell up until 2032. Whatever you're reading, whatever you're telling yourself, don't lie. You've not done any research. You don't have the full information. You don't know. It's just pure hope, and it's just desperation coming out from your mouth. And I get it. We all feel a little bit desperate. We're feeling a little bit hopeless. I think we're feeling a little bit bored, actually, by the fact that we aren't doing anything after the flipping advantages we've had since 2022. It's a bit ridiculous. Let's keep things real. But if you really honestly think that you're going to see something unfounded, like Clear Lake, all of a sudden selling up, considering the fact that when Roman had to sell due to sanctions placed, we accelerated the bidding process to find a replacement. But normally this takes between 9 to 18 months. I don't think many of you guys want to waste another 1.5, 2 seasons doing nothing, as you're still reading city reports of 20 other bidders trying to buy the football club who have 20 other different plans.
And by the way,
no. Keep it real, my guy. Keep it.
We're very unlikely to get, say, a Saudi, which is just all hell breaks loose, and
why
you
does
can
that even make that automatically better? Because it's more money.
Exactly. But I think people would rather someone that isn't necessarily trying to make money out of the club or doesn't have investors to please, or.
And this is where we got to be realistic.
But it's very, it's very unrealistic to get what you got in Roman again, because that is like a one-off. If you look at all the other big clubs in this country, they don't have that. The one thing I will say about the owners is that I highly doubt they will actually let the directors get the 32-year-old on a 2-year deal, because that's obviously what Todd Bowley did with Aubameyang, and he signed Koulibaly. And as soon as Egbali, transitioned and took more of a role, and Todd stood back in that January-December period, we've not seen that ever again. Everybody has just, the few that have been maybe 26 is a free on Tosin, Drewsbury Hall 25 PSR, but most yeah. Most of them are below that age, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
can, when I see these clips and these interviews of them speaking in these forums, it's always we want to buy young players. The multi-club model is something that jars me as well because I think we did that way too quickly, and then also
too
on top
soon,
of that,
too
we
soon.
don't have enough clubs to actually operate this properly
Nah,
because we've got some
nah,
players that go to Strasbourg, do get minutes, do get opportunities, do get
yeah,
game
yeah.
time, but then you send other players to other clubs
That's
who
what I mean, bro. We
it
thought we were
fails
gonna have a
miserably.
Portuguese
Look at
club bag.
Okuchuku at Southampton for his first 6
Exactly,
months.
exactly. We thought at the time everything was going to work in our favor. We were speaking to the Argentinian clubs, spoke to Portuguese clubs, hoping we were going to like sign up Portimonense and all these other guys, which
Yeah.
didn't come because they weren't willing to sell up. It's like you have more clout when you've shown actually the
That you
first
win.
thing that is you're winning.
Yeah.
Bro, like one thing I'll never forget is, actually one of my personal frustrations being a fan is considering the advantage we had since Roma first took over, how Man City have eclipsed us and they're becoming that legacy dynasty club that we've just been having these visions for like our
Yeah.
whole lives. We've spent a crap ton of money. Yes, net profits, blah, 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 but we still have access to stupid funds. And the fact that we're not making any dents is embarrassing. And when Man City essentially said they studied what Chelsea did, the complete opposite of it, and they found untold success, what does that say about just like the culture of Chelsea? Because listen, it's easy for us to kind of look back with sentimental eyes as we like to do when times are rough and everything Roman did was good. Not everything Roman did was good. There's also consequences from not having a business plan. And if he did introduce that on top of his expectations, it could have been a bit different. Maybe he was a bit too hasty and firing managers left, right, and center. But maybe if he had a one dip season, that should have been an opportunity to reinvest to get back up. Mourinho, Ancelotti, two guys I think we kind of did dirty in Mourinho's first spell. And Ancelotti in the tunnel, is it against Everton? I mean, come on, you don't treat a manager like this in that type of fashion. And, we can't forget too, not going to lie, man, again, and the thing we don't like to discuss as a fan base, all these little off dealings, with agents behind the scenes, like, I might sound a bit mad, but like, if we're going to cheat and do like a Man City, like, we need to win. I'm sorry, like, if we're going to be getting unfair advantages, like, you got to be winning from that, like.
This is why I gave them a lot of slack in the first year and especially in the first window, because Lukaku had his bust up with Tuchel. He had to be moved on. Timo Werner had been a bust. He needed to be moved on. You look at Rudiger and Christensen running out of contract on a free. There was an aging midfield there with Kante, Jorginho that needed to be rebuilt. So it's not like as if these guys came into the club with a team that was ready to go and everything was set and they just had to top it up. They did have to do a rebuild. But for me, that excuse runs out a year, 18 months. Because now, when you came in, you said, we're going to rip everything up. We're going to be bigger and better than what Roman did. We're going to, they're not maximizing.
Sacking managers left, right, and center.
And we're still sacking managers.
Plan,
We're still sacking managers. But the difference is we're not winning. At least, yes, with Roman, the title charges kind of stopped after Conte's 2017 win. The semi-final Champions League appearances didn't happen between Jose 13-14 all the way to Thomas Tuchel. So there's a big gap of Europa League.
The biggest criticism is the fact that when we had success, we could never, ever build from it.
Sustain it, yeah. But that's better than having nothing, right? We haven't won anything in 3 years. Now there's no domestic cups in 7 years. There's no trophies. I mean, God forbid if we were to go out of that Conference League, that will be the moment that people really
if the podcast came after that, then I get it.
That's when people would really lose their heads.
When you're allowed to say anything at that point, like it doesn't even matter at that point.
Honestly, that's
Yeah, I know it's. I completely agree. I understand the difficulties at the start. I think the thing that really messed up the direction was the sanctions meant that you can't really build for the future unless people know what to expect. Because guys aren't gonna say yes to hope. At the time, if you remember, there was a lot of uncertainty around what was going to happen. No one had the full answers, so you can't build from that. And obviously, Bowley, he tried to get Edwards. Edwards, I was not ready at all. In a different alternate universe, is he just waiting behind the scenes, doing things very slow in that first year, thinking, you know what, I'm not going to be overspending too much because this ain't the time to do that. I want to bring my guy in first before I'm ready to start doing this thing. We're not dumb fans. We can probably accept a transition year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have a bit of sympathy too. I know no one's going to like what I say, because if you're already in that position, the structure's not there, not nothing. I think it's a bit fair to say you're going to turn towards your manager, right, to help.
But
And
we all knew he didn't want that role, and he was never
this
he
is
was
why I
never
can't
up for it.
accept it. I can't accept that. I can't accept that. For me, I just think, listen, from everything we've heard about this spell, as it ended, his trip to India to find himself personally, I don't know what type of demons Tuchel have. Listen, I'm very much about mental health, and I really
Well, we
care
saw
about
we
that.
saw it. We saw it at the back end of that season. He was obviously going through something with his wife. We
Exactly.
obviously had the sanctions. I think we underestimate what a stressful period it was to manage Chelsea and still get them into the Champions League, which we're still suffering and still can't eclipse or equal right now.
Yeah,
On
but we
much
had the
calmer
quality, we had
conditions.
the experience to be able to make that happen still. you
Yeah,
know?
but to do that, get to both domestic cup finals, win 2 cups, which obviously were over 3 games in the Super Cup and
Yeah.
the Club World Cup. And then, look, when these guys came in, they didn't know what they were doing. It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
And to be the only, and then to lose Petr Cech, so to be the only person that does know about the sport, but wherever he's been, he's always had someone to look to say, right, you're running the business or you're running the sport inside of it. I'm going to coach the team. It didn't mirror up. In another world, Roman maybe keeps his club, and I think Tuchel actually would have been the manager that Roman would have actually maybe calmed down and settled with if he had given him a sporting director over Mourinho.
I see it, man. I just think
The connection that the club and the manager in Tuchel had, that was a bond that could have been unbreakable, in my opinion. Yes, we could talk about the football, we could talk about the utilization of certain players, but he was a top manager, and we've not come anywhere close to that level of tactical kind of, that tactical imprint on football matches since he's left. And I think for what he did in a very short space of time, for me, I can never discount or undermine what he did at the football club, because he's reached every single final in all comps, and bar the Lukaku debacle, he could have been in the Premier League title race as well. To do that in 18 months is incredible.
I hear you, and I'm not here to discredit what Tuchel did. I think a fool does that. I'm not wasting my time. My only thing I'll say is that when the institutions aren't about and ownership's taking over, and they're naturally gonna need support, you're gonna turn to your manager regardless of who the man is or not. It's part of the job, right? And I just think there's a different perspective where Tuchel had a rare opportunity to have carte blanche on constructing the squad in his image. Like, he would have known the restrictions he had under the older ownership, moves to Haaland's, Ousmane Dembele's, all these top guys that he wanted to bring in, Rafinha, these guys he wanted to bring to the football club. The club couldn't secure under those times. Yeah, we can't be forgetting that. There was an opportunity here where an ownership is saying, Tuchel, what do you need? Who are the players you need? And we saw Sterling's, we saw Cucurella's, we saw Koulibaly's. They were offered big wages and big money at the time. Koulibaly over 200 bags, 290.
Poor negotiation, right?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. At the time, you're thinking, oh, Koulibaly, 31, who's got that big boy experience. Raheem Sterling, all for 49.5 mil. I guess it makes sense if he's on 300 bags. That's how a lot of us were seeing it at the time. But these guys came under Tuchel's orders and direction. And listen, I'm not angry against the guy, but it's simply the fact that I just personally think, because the headspace and the personal life interfered with the professional life, I think if this was an alternate universe where he had none of those issues behind the scenes, because bro, come on, like, personal shit can be very hard to deal with when your mentals aren't straight, and I sympathize with that. If that fact didn't exist, I think we see an even more rejuvenated Tuchel. He's like, yo, I can really build and take control now.
The only thing I'll add is that they didn't give him time to work with those players. I think they sacked him in 5th. Aubameyang must have played a game and a half. Like, if you're going to make those signings for the manager, you have to leave the manager in his position. They didn't do that. And again, at the time, we thought that the world was falling apart because we had lost to Dinamo Zagreb and we were 5th. Again, look at where we are now. So it's like, they had the opportunity. We talk about them ripping everything out of the club immediately. They took him out of that position. They didn't let him try and stabilize. They didn't give him time to kind of, settle himself and use those players that he had brought in. And they brought in Graham Potter, and that is where it just goes downhill from there. And I still think, regardless, with Ed Barley's kind of imprint and what he wants to do in terms of, he talks about managing assets, he talks about having his fingers in all the pies across the world with all the different clubs, recruiting from all the different places, young players, making a profit. Look at Brighton, the amount of money they make in their mid-table. I don't think Tuchel would have put up with that. So I think probably kicking the can down the road, it was inevitable that those two are going to fall out, because when you've got someone that wants to win, and that's what Tuchel did, he wanted to win trophies, and he aligned with Roman in that way. They wanted to win, and you've got people that want to go on a project or a process, and maybe it will lead to winning, maybe it won't. Maybe that's not the plan. Maybe the plan is top 4 Champions League money, the odd cup here and there, but Premier League, Champions League wins.
I mean, I don't know. I don't fully agree with that. I get what you're saying, but it's simply the fact that when Bowley took over, there was no projects or plans in place. That was the thing that came off.
Do you not think that Barley had that plan when he came in? Do you not think?
Even if he did, the reality is that when you sign Cuckoo and Koulibaly and Sterling and Fofanas and all these types of guys that we bought for big money during that window, and we gave big wages, did things that we're not doing right now. I don't think that was even in place. So for me, I just see it like this. It's so rare for managers to get what they want. I mean, we've seen it recently. Poch didn't get what he wants. Maresca's not getting what he wants. Most managers don't. I think you can count on your hands, managers have been very lucky, actually, to get what they wanted. Xabi Alonso recently, you're looking at flipping Guardiola, that's always been one of his things, right, that he can get exactly what he needs to keep on doing what he needs to do. And I don't know. It's just more the fact that there's an opportunity. Yeah, exactly. This is what I mean. And Tuchel had that chance to create that, because when the owners are coming to you to say, boss, what do you need? I get their frustration. I get the naivety, You want Aubameyang, why don't you want Ronaldo? I get that. But I just think that if there was like a bit of if the Arsenal wasn't mad, I think he would have been able to handle the stress better, because it's just, I just see it, maybe I'm being like simple, but it's more additional, let me finish. It's just more additional stress that you're taking on that you just don't need right now. You got stress from all angles. You got stress from the owners who are belly your line 24/7, which they're gonna do, but it's just like, you're only a man. How can you run all these different factions all together and think that you're gonna keep everything stable? I think this is why there's a lot of, when he did leave, there was no bad blood in the end. I think this is why things were kept very hush. I think this is why there's still good vibes. I think it's only my projection, but I just have this vibe and idea that everyone knows it was just wrong timing, basically. If this happened right now, if we decided, you know what, Tuchel, it's a shame he's with England, but I don't know, if we said you want to come back to Chelsea, I think it could be a bit different. I don't think it would be quite the same.
I don't think it could work with the way that we operate, and the way that these directors have an over obsession with youth and bringing in young players that are not ready to play for the club, not ready to contribute for the club. They signed someone in January that is literally just here to train. There's no top manager, and we've been rejected by enough of them, whether it's Nagelsmann or whoever. There's no top manager that's working within this structure. And top managers, they want to have a say, or they want to be working with someone who knows what they're doing. And that's the difference. When we talk about Pep and Tiki, we talk about Klopp and Edwards. They're working and getting what they want from people who know how to negotiate, who know also how to operate in the market. Todd Bowie on your phone, who's just come in from America for the getting to know the sport and asking the most ludicrous, stupid questions, it is going to take his toll. And he did do very poor negotiations.
As a manager, should you not accept that? Because you know that these guys aren't experts. You know that there's no structure in place. Obviously, the new ownership comes in. Marina's gone, Jack's gone, everyone's gone right now. Even if you didn't ask for it, because you're hired as a manager, it's like tough. You have to run with it now.
Do you think Mourinho, Conte, Pep would have accepted it? I could have easily seen those guys. I think those guys could have easily walked.
No. I think they would have relished the fact that, you know what, this is an opportunity now to mold things in their image, because all the structures that existed prior, let's not act like Tuchel what everything is about. I just told you, like Dembele's, Rafinha's, all these guys, Koundé's, he wanted to sign, he never got them. This is what I mean by we keep being too sentimental with the old ownership. They weren't perfect, and this is why we didn't ever build sustainable success. Like, they would have relished the opportunity to work with a naive owner who doesn't really have much experience. I mean, look what Mourinho did with Roman. the famous quote, you know, Mr. Abramovich, you know, speak, you know, I mean, don't talk, just buy Drogba. You know what I mean? Like this is a type of power that you can have that just safeguards your position even longer. I just think that this is a dream scenario for most managers to like have control of, because it's like, yo, I'm doing shit my way. I have real say to do this. And all it takes is getting success that one season. These owners are like, all right, cool. This might work like this. You know what I mean? I think what happened is that when it failed, I think this is where Bowley got undermined. I think this is where a Barley starts to take more influence, because all the consortium, the other investors, remember, they're like, probably think this is a terrible nightmare start to our life at the football club. Shit ton of money's been spent on dud players that we don't even need right now. This is an absolute mess. This is a financial disaster. We need to do something drastic now to make sense of this potential black hole we're forming for ourselves, where we've given a shit ton of money to all these guys that aren't needed. So you saw a joint offensive. You saw Bodie doing, you know, his flying in Saudi Arabia to move as many high-profile guys as possible you could there. You're seeing a Barley taking over. You saw that Winsley and Co didn't come in until like near January to start kicking things for the following phase. They're like, nah. This way of doing things, the fact the manager's gone, the money's been wasted. Barley, you're not the guy that we feel confidence in as a consortium, as an investor group. And Barley in that, let's keep the wage more low. Let's do this youth approach. Let's be more aggressive with the youth approach, actually. Let's do things that way. And I think, I don't know, I think I'm starting to like paint the picture of how we find ourselves in this position. But going back to what he even said, you know, you can't use that. We can understand what happened, but we can't use that as an excuse now, because there's been how many flipping windows to address everything.
They said judge us after 4. I think it's been 6.
And this is what I mean, bro. This constant cap in terms of miscommunication, not being transparent, just the idea. And this is what makes me actually lose the confidence in the directors and stuff, because it feels like they think they're that smart that they could pattern all their schemes to their like inch perfect ways they envisioned. But it's like the world don't revolve around us. Like, we're not those guys. Like, you need to be like, being strategic is also being a bit humble, being a bit smart, having the foresight, knowing when to pick certain battles. Like, we're just like that guy with a bag of money that's just like trying to entice any kid with a lollipop to sign for us. And then, you know what I mean? And then we just actually, I don't even want to even
but also, just to add to your point, there was always like, well, whilst we were signing all these young players, I was saying, what are you going to do when the next young player pops up and the next one and the next one? So don't blow your load.
Yeah.
like
buy a criminal now, but yeah.
Buy who you truly believe in are going to be A-star, A-grade talents, and leave the B's and the C's alone. That's all you have to do. And if you do that, because I was looking into it, they've wasted about 400 million on young players that are either out on loan or players that have completely failed. Like, you can see it's dead as day. It's like if you had just, it's like a plate. You need the carbs. You need some of the protein. You need some of the veg. And these men have just overloaded on carbs. And there's no veg and there's no protein.
That's it. No substance, man.
Just have a balanced meal.
Yeah.
A wonderful meal.
It would be a spectacular. I mean, I'm seeing that meal right now, man. You know what I mean? But these guys, it's like that processed shit, to be honest with you. It's I don't know. Like, again, us being the fans, like, I'm gonna just sound hella arrogant, but I've always just had this stupid thought where it's like, if I was running the club, I think I could do a little bit better now. But maybe I'm just being an idiot. Like,
bro, Ola Aina is available. Ola Aina is available on a free. You know, Ola Aina is available on a free.
That's it, man. Going back to London, man. Bring the vibes back to the dressing room. We need that.
There's like, I personally don't think we have any money left. That's the thing. But if we had just taken our time, opportunities always pop up, and then good opportunities, not Garnacho's, like actual opportunities, like maybe Rodrigo at Real Madrid. And then you have the ability to attack those and say, I can complement a Rodrigo who's played at Real Madrid. He's got experience, but he's still young, still fits the model. Maybe the wage structure not.
Right.
But give him to an Esteban William.
We got to keep it humble.
Yeah.
We go for Brian Diaz. We don't go for Rodrigo. Like let's be humble about it. Yeah,
Bro,
Diaz we can get. Like,
once upon a time, Chelsea would really have been able to tempt a Rodrigo to say, listen, you aren't the main man. We'll make you the main man at Kings Road, London
once
club.
upon a time, a long time ago.
You know, you'll be the
Couldn't
guy.
even get Rafinha and Dembele and all these guys. And he played at the time. So I don't think we ever had that real source. The thing is with us, how I see it is that we always had moments where after like a mad season, it allowed us to do more than what we could actually do. And it's like we never took full advantage of that. Like, bro, after winning the seal, you can't just only be signing who? Lukaku, and who else would be signing that window? Or Saul? And who was the other guy?
Yeah, Saul Niguez.
Like,
when we needed like a Tchouameni and we decided to get Saul Niguez.
You know what I mean? Do you get that? How you just won the CL? Like, how the hell have you not splashed out? Even take the risk, like, you know what? Flip it. Like, we'll take a bit of a L with the wages, the money this year, because we know we're gonna come big with these types of guys. But bro, just to wrap up this chat for the next like 5 to 8 minutes, I feel like I'm gonna leave it on a more constructive one. You know, I feel like a lot of times in these conversations, it's always about talking about the idea of things. But listen, we're not experts, but we have our own thoughts and ideas. Like, take the floor. But like, if you could control how next summer is going to be, what type of things are you doing in terms of, I don't know, any signings, structural replacements, whatever? Like, I'm sure all of us have these thoughts, right? But we're thinking what the hell we actually do. So, bro, take the floor, man.
First thing I would do is send Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart their P45s. Then I would seek a new sporting director who is hopefully got experience at a top club with a top mentality and understanding the top intangibles that are needed to win, because that's the mandate now. The summer would be about how can we win, nothing else. How can we win? Because we have enough young players, we have enough potential, enough talent for the next 10 years to be excited about. But how can we win and then attract the best again? And I think if the new sporting director wanted a new manager, you'd have to back him on that. He didn't hire Maresca, shouldn't have to be tied down to him. Although, you know, Maresca may be following along from Poch and Potter. It's unfortunate for you that you're in this situation, but that is what happens. And I would like to think that Egbali and Todd Bowie, they're not clashing, because one thing that is able to, I don't know the situation, the structure of this 10-year situation, who can sell and who can't, but I don't know if they can buy each other out, or, you know, if someone.
No, they can.
So there could be a new majority or whatever.
Yeah, that's the only takeover. No,
so if that's the case, then some clarity on who wants to win, if anyone, would be great. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the guy I'd back. But I have a worry that there isn't anyone in there. And I think Todd Bowie, his stocks have taken a bit of a plummet after the Vivid Seats thing. And I think there needs to be some clarification on that as well.
Yeah, the Vivid Seats thing, bro. I mean, yes. Listen, I see from one perspective, I mean, this guy actually is invested in like over 100 companies. He's not gonna have no grants level understanding. It's just the idea of it. Boom. Yeah. I think obviously it is. Yeah, that whole thing's a bit disgraceful.
The conflict of interest. Yeah.
It is. I think out of principle, even that the money he has, sell up your shares and that, get the hell out of there. You know what I mean? Like, that was always going to come back to bite in the ass. Even though that's probably not even making that much P realistically. But but yeah, for me, I just think, you know what? I'm going to sound a bit mad because I don't rate the directors. I don't rate the current direction. But I'm looking at options and I don't see what type of director that we can bring in. Like, again, if there was a path of world where Lampard wasn't with Coventry winning games of fun now and he was still out of a job, maybe I'm saying, you know what, man, you need to come back, oversee the running of the club, cool. But I just feel like we're so far gone now in terms of the fact that every last bit of Chelsea institutional knowledge is out the door. When you see Neil Bath and Jim Fraser leaving in the manner they left, which we're not remembering, these guys put us on the map with what we're doing now. And I mean put us on the map, because even if you don't rate the academy talents, the amount of money that we've made that's helped fund other moves, that alone is not, it's one of those things you take for granted in the moment, but you'll look back 10, 20 years from now, and we're not going to be selling most of these guys for anywhere near those funds, because Now they're leaving earlier. And back then, we could cash in on them because we were selling them at 21, 22, and they were doing their thing online. And that's how they built their market cap. That won't be happening now. And I think, listen, outside of like the young generation, I think there's a lot of nice talents at the club. I don't think many of them are as good as what we had before, like ready to be at the highest level just yet. I'm just keeping it real. That's why I don't talk about them as much. But I just think that there's so many things now working against us that I just can't envision drastic change again. My only idea I've been thinking about that is like a last stand hurrah type of thing is that we probably have to be over ambitious. We have to probably take a risk in the fact that we could be in a deficit in the wage bill. And we're doing that in hopes that this is a difference. We're we're investing in our future to know that, okay, we can feel confident now that we're really safeguarding CO. Because bro, the fact you're not cashing in on front of our shirt sponsors, that's like a 60 more a year.
Yeah.
You get 10, 15 years for these deals, bro. Yeah, that's funding a lot of stuff. The CL money we're missing out on, like another 20 to 30 mil a year. I mean, come on, this is a crazy amount of money. And another thing we're forgetting is the fact that all the players that sign for us, they earn less money. You're not going to be keeping a happy bunch. And Cole Palmer is not earning his maximum value because his contract says that without CL football, you take a pay cut, and it's not your fault because you're not running things behind the scenes. I think this has to be the final window where all we have to do now, it's a crazy thing, but you might have to have a bit more balance and listen to your manager because you said it, bro. We've got so many youth talents right now. We don't need no more, for God's sake. I mean, even the flipping defense, bro. You got Ansel Mina, action from you got this Msar guy. I think, listen,
Renato Vega still on the books.
Renato Vega, like, bro, we had a vision to use him in Verd. That's what the directors are saying. And then Juventus and Vega's like, no, I think I'm actually a defender. And it's just like something like he could have been the Bania guy replacement. Like he could have been shown what he's about. You know what I mean? It's just completely just like, this is what I mean by the environment is poor. Like we're going to the extreme where the directors feel they can construct the squad and the manager just makes it work. No. You've already got enough talent. I think right now, manager focus. And I think when you focus in on that, I've thought about my window next summer. I'm going to nerd out. I'm going to tell you, Santos, get your ass straight back. You know what I mean? He's going to be here. I'm signing Benjamin Sesko. I think this guy is, maybe a bit better than Nico right now. I've watched a lot of Sesko this season. I think the striking technique is one of the best I've seen in Europe right now. This is a guy with a ton of upside, and it also supports the model we're doing at the moment where he's not going to ask for 200,000 a week at his age. Cool. But his upside makes him the fact that him and Nico, real competition, that type of stuff you're not having behind the scenes, this guy's they're going to bring goals together.
Would you get him over Isak and Nyokros, yeah?
Bro, I just don't think Isak is, listen, that's a pipe dream. I can't talk about pipe dreams. It's not, especially without CL. If we had CL football, yeah.
This is without CL. Okay, I get you.
This is without CL. This is because I just don't see it now this season, bro. I'm looking at again, Osimhen again. Honestly, I'd be surprised if Osimhen would even give us a time of day again. I'd be very surprised. And this is just like the speak, don't talk moment. Here's the money. Big apology. Here's like a flipping Bugatti as a sorry present. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that will happen, but it won't happen. I think right now, based on the highest caliber we can get, I think Sesko is that, because what helps us is that not many teams now, like the better teams, they don't need a striker. So if we can't beat Arsenal and certain clubs to him, then we got no future, basically. I'm signing Mohamed Kudus because not only is it because he's my countryman, but outside of that, it's the quality. And it's the fact that Maresca, like, if you're going to hire a manager that has his ideas, you've got to back them fully. You can't half-ass it. You can't sign guys that need to train to play his way. They have to already know how they're playing to make it work. Because what are you doing, bro? Like, you're wasting everyone's time. You know what I mean? The fact Vega bounces and he's playing fucking defense, he's not playing inverted nonsense as Strasbourg. I think that tells you everything you need to know, right? They're the type of guys I'm signing.
There's got to be a goalkeeper on this list, brother, please.
I think a goalkeeper, bro, I'm looking at Kobel. I just think it needs a new environment. But at 27, I think this guy has a bit of big game panache. Ideally, Diogo Costa, but I feel like we can't be going for these release clause moves that you got to overpay. I think we kind of rinsed out all these release clause deals right now. And it's like, if you're not paying up front now, you're wasting your time. And in defense, I need to see, bro, a bit of experience. This is where it gets quite hard. I think the market now has thinned out a little bit in defense. I think Guy, I just think short-term relief, he's a guy that could be here 2-3 years max. Other guys are growing behind the scenes, but he comes in with Prem experience straight away. And actually, Guy doesn't get enough credit. I see a lot of Cavallo in Guy. He's a thinky man's defender. He's not the biggest, but top defenders, if you know how to use your brain and how to think of position, that's what takes you the furthest, in my opinion. I look at him.
Personally, I need someone aerially
and
more dominant.
I fully agree. We need that. But again, I'm just hoping that Fofana is going to kind of calm down these injuries. Like, this guy's on like 200 bags a week, you know what I mean? And also, I'm looking at someone that can play left back. I think the fact that we had 10 left backs to now only having Cucurella, I think that's an absolute mad situation. We're going to have to buy someone with a bit of experience there. And I think, obviously, I said Santos, midfields. I mean, again, my crazy one is I'm also getting to a point where I think to myself, you know, I'll be really forcing, not even that, bro. I'll be really forcing this Enzo Caicedo, I think, a bit too much now.
I'm more than happy to see Santos starting next to Caicedo.
You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at, you know, if Real Madrid say, listen, all we need is Enzo, Chelsea, here's 80 million, 85 million. Do I turn that down? Do I turn that down knowing, you know what, maybe I have to restructure the midfield. Maybe that money I'm getting for Enzo is going to be used towards signing someone that suits what we do more. And I'm going to be promoting flipping Santos to be that replacement for Enzo. I'm going to be promoting Leslie, and I'm going to sign like a proper guy who can help you boss in midfield. Because, bro, you spent $250 million on these guys, and I still can't remember the last time these guys have bossed in midfield to master the game. Let's keep it real.
I think Enzo's been playing well in the downturn.
He definitely has. And I love Enzo Fernandez, but I'm just thinking we're at a point right now where if you have to make that smart, harsh, like decision, that ruthless decision for the sake of the greater good, even with
more solid foundations defensively.
Yeah. If that hit comes where it's like, shit, selling Enzo means we now have cash to buy 2 or 3 guys that's going to cement us. Bro, we've wasted nearly 3 years right now. We can't waste another year.
Would you move on Lavia and Fofana? The injury issues.
I can't see who's going to buy them. Realistically, who's going to pay? What, we're going to make a profit? Give us 85 mil for Lavia, and he's played like 15 games the last 2 years. I even feel for this kid. I just think it's one of them ones where he's lucky that he's like 20, 21 years old. I mean, he's going to be a long-term 22, 23-year-old thing. But bro, I think Lavia, if he can keep them legs, keep that fitness, you're looking at one of the next big holding mids in Europe. I've been very impressed by him. Yeah, maybe this is what I mean. I feel like these are the ruthless things I'm doing. And it's just like, yeah, can't be wasting time now. There's got to be that mixture of quality. Yeah. I feel this game ain't that complicated, bro. All the big teams are big teams because they sign the best players. It's how the game works. Yeah. It's very rare you see these Simeone guys where they can tactics their teams to victories. And even when Simeone's won, it's always come when Barca and Madrid have together fallen off. He's never outcompeted them at their peaks because you can't. Why? Because you don't have Yamal, you don't have Mbappe, you don't have Bellingham, he doesn't have Vinicius Jr. These are the players that doesn't bet. And this is how the game runs. Look at PSG, what they're buying. Bayern Munich. Like, it's the principle of the game. Yeah. I don't expect that. This is what happens.
On your left back, I really wish Samuel Smith was registered for the Conference League because I do want to see what he could do as an understudy for the last 6 months behind Cucurella. Because we're very good at producing defenders. I spoke about Lewis Hall and how gutted I was that we let him go. I think he's going to be England's starting left back. Maybe Lewis Skelly will be challenging him or he'll move into midfield. But that was a player that could invert, he could overlap, he can cross, he can pass, he can.
Suits what you want right now.
Really messed up with that one, man. Like, that is a crazy talent to just let walk out the door.
What does it come back to, bro? It comes back to opportunities. Because it's like when you can sell, like I was making this point in January. 10 man could have left us in Jan, yeah. Felix, Disasi, Cassidy, Chukwuemeka, you can go on. That's like, 40% of your squad. So you think to yourself, number one, the manager's working with 10 guys who are thinking, maybe I'm not going to completely bust the gut because I might mess up my move in January. And number two, it continues this lack of actual big club management and understanding, where it's like you're still ruled by the best of the art of the opportunity. That's what you're always forever falling down that rabbit hole. What is the best deal we can get for any one of these guys? Okay, finally, like last seconds of the window, we sold. What do we have left? What can we do? It's not good enough. And I don't see the big clubs running that. And I don't think it's even an experience there. I'm seeing guys like Salihamidzic and Coronison. There's other guys like that going to these clubs like Freundberg, came from RB Salzburg, for God's sake. These guys get it. These guys get it. I think these guys we have don't, but we also ruin it by having too many of the same guy at the top. Right? You're diluting. It's just like you've made a beautiful meal and now you just decide to just dash water on it now and then soak up the whole thing. Like, what was the point of wasting all that time chefing up, cooking, planning? You're just gonna douse it in water in the end anyway, all right?
I'm not going to say there's no strategy, but the strategy is very flawed, very wrong.
A lot of holes, bro. It's looking a bit mad, and it's just like we're at a point right now where I don't think. Listen, I'm kind of accepting CL might not be happening now. I think like not.
You've seen our fixtures coming up, innit?
Yeah, bro.
You've seen the trip to the Emirates, trip to City Ground, trip to St James's Park, Villa Park, Liverpool.
Lord. Bro, like the system, like we can't even press no more. Like
we can't. We got
no options to turn to.
No striker.
Bro, the guys can't even run 90 minutes.
Palmer and Caicedo were tanked out.
Bro,
there's definitely another. Sorry, but there's another injury soon. There is.
You know, because it was happening because these guys was getting burnt out already with what was left, right? And it's just like, bro, like honestly, our season is Conference League or bust. Because this is what should happen. I think this is how we'll probably get sold eventually. I don't rate no one right now. We win the Conference League, it gets us into the Europa League. We maybe win the Europa League next year to guarantee CL spot. And that's how we kind of fugazi ourselves back to the top. Because even I don't have no confidence that the window either of us want to see is going to happen. Because, I mean, bro, like you have a vision at the start of every window. And the reality, bro, is two completely different things. Once you've done all the opportunity stuff.
It's crazy that since the takeover of Newcastle, they've made Champions League spot more often than they've spent way less than us.
Way less. They're not even allowed to spend because of flipping PSR affecting them, man.
Yeah.
Imagine if they could.
If they could, this is the thing. We're lucky that PSR. We're unlucky because it sabotages our window a little bit, but we're lucky because if Newcastle could spend the way Roman did when he first came in, that's another club that would be infinitely ahead of us. Like, we're finished, stratosphere is clear of us.
Finished. Like, bro, flipping Isak, Tonali, Bruno.
And those players like playing there. Like, a lot of people talk, when is Isak going to leave? Like, Bruno Guimaraes going to leave. Like, Newcastle cultivate a culture where those players are loved and they'll want to play there. The only thing stopping them from staying is just ambition and spend. If they can match the ambition. If they can, those players will love Newcastle.
Time, bro. They imagine again, Newcastle forced to sell Minter, not because they wanted to, but because they had to for PSR. Yep. That's mad. Imagine what he was doing if they're adding that quality with
Anderson. Yeah, Anderson as well. Midfield.
Anderson going to Forest, bro. That's like I feel like for them a bit. It's mad. I know that the PSR rules are changing, I think, from next season, right?
I think all clubs passed. So everyone has
passed. And now the rules have like lessened a bit now where it's like your percentage of revenue is the thing now that allows you to spend more. But you need the business. And this could screw us over because if we're not securing all these deals, which I thought these guys were supposed to do, it's just not creating the situation, man. So
even the shirt sponsor that was on the sleeve, the crypto one, that had to be taken away so quickly because obviously a crypto company is not a reliable source of income. Shock. Like, they're not even getting the business side of it.
We came close to having stake on our shirt. Can you imagine that?
Oh, bro. After all of that.
Stake. Look, the fact was the first fan backlash that was completely stopped that. So the backlash can work, you guys. Like, if it's focus, you guys need to focus up and say no stake, yeah? No stakes. So
crazy.
25th, come correct, I beg. Please come correct. But, bro, I kind of feel like this has been like a good therapy session to unpack all the misdemeanors with our football club right now. It kind of went over time by 20 minutes. I wasn't really expecting this still. Yeah, I think it's time to wrap things off.
Absolute pleasure.
It's getting darker right now, and I've got a missus I need to feed in it. So, where can the people find you? Which, I mean, they probably should already know. And if you don't, like, what are you doing?
right there. MAH. Just type that into YouTube. My channel will appear, and I'm
Made
looking
it
forward
easy.
to
It's 3 letters, yeah?
3 letters. I've
MAH.
made it so easy. I
That's
couldn't make
it.
it any easier.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to dropping a piece of content I'm waiting to get approved soon. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but
Nice
once
to
it
make
gets
to get
approved,
you know?
yeah, once it gets approved, we're dropping it. It's not Chelsea related. Sorry, it's not Chelsea related. Yeah.
That's funny. But for the accusations come through, man, my lord. Then you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the chat today. We will see you on our relevant channels after Chelsea. Clear Lake out. No, I'm joking. See you guys in a bit. Cool.